ITI, Island Technical Installations, is an electrical switchgear manufacturing company. We provide electrical switchgears and electrical power distribution solutions across various industries like transit, utilities, and industrial projects. And as a project manager at ITI, my role is to have day-to-day coordination with clients, vendors, designers, to make sure that the project goes as smoothly as possible. I have an electromechanical engineering degree, so it's a bit of mix between electrical and mechanical, but my main type of work is focused on electrical engineering. I've always had this passion for physics and math, and also I loved problem solving. I always been fond of just being careful with nature and environment, and part of the engineering is, right, especially recently, is how we design things to make sustainability as the major and main goal of it. It just also depends on the end user and the client, because it's their solution and we are providing it for them. So environment is definitely an area that is very being developed recently, and any engineer who loves that could definitely go this way, whether environmental engineering or sustainability later on. On a day-to-day basis, I always communicate with vendors, with technical people or non-technical people, and this creates some sort of skills in your business knowledge, how companies are running, how you would talk to a vendor versus contractor versus consultant, for example. So it really gives you this holistic knowledge of the engineering world. The best thing I find in my job, whether engineering or project manager, is to be able to see the project from the beginning till its end. So you're not just seeing the design on a piece of paper, but at the end you're also seeing it like in real life, which is really good. And I take pride in seeing it in person, because you would see the effort that you've done all the way.
I work for Electronic Arts in the Player and Quality Insights team. So my role is all about supporting researchers in setting up research studies, getting people to come in and play new games or unreleased features, and then giving their feedback. Stats is more like applied math, so it's a lot of kind of answering more business questions, and then pure math can get really theoretical, so you're kind of proving theorems, and you're almost not even working with numbers at that point, you're just talking about theory. And that is really, really cool, but kind of intense. And I was sort of more interested in going the sort of data analysis and business side of things. I was also a data analyst at Kano. I worked there, and my role there was a little bit more on like the kind of executive level overview type of work. So like looking at the company, like player acquisition and revenue trends and high level metrics about that, and then also helping marketing teams. A pipeline starts with, like, for a game, for example, or any kind of application, as soon as somebody does something in the game, they perform an action, say you score a goal or you buy something, that triggers an event in the pipeline, and the data engineers will sort of set up those events so that they're being streamed into the database. Data scientists might help them understand like which features of the app are important to capture, so that we have that information. And then they'll bring it into the database, and they might reorganize the data a little bit so that it's easier for analysts and scientists to work with. And then data analysts are more about, they focus on like reporting of the data, so building dashboards and answering questions, storytelling, and being able to connect what you're seeing in data to what's important in the business is probably the more important thing, and being able to communicate that to people who don't really have maybe a stats or a math or a data background.
I really was drawn to the aspect of using my knowledge and what I learned in my PhD to something that can really help the climate, the Mother Earth, the economy. I am a phycologist, which means I study algae, and in particularly marine algae. What I do as the chief scientist of Cascadia is the research and development program, the cultivation program, so making all the seaweed, and then how it develops on the farm to make products with seaweeds. They do have a life cycle, which involves a large blade, which we call the sporophyte, in which you actually see and hold, and then a very microscopic stage. And what we do to farm seaweed is we take advantage of that life cycle and get them to live on spools, which we grow kind of like you would trees in a nursery until they're a certain age, and then they get moved out to our ocean farms, and that's where they grow for another 4 to 6 months until they're ready for harvest. So we know that kelp forests actually revitalize ecosystems, supports biodiversity, provides ecosystem services like oxygen production, nutrient uptaking, carbon capture, which is really important right now with climate change. But then we can make seaweeds into different products. So we think about seaweed and kelps as you can eat it. You can also make alginate. I think the coolest thing I've seen so far is you can make running shoes. So it can replace bioplastic, so getting rid of all that single-use plastic. The biggest things that people are going into are things called biostimulants, and that's what we make at Cascadia. And a biostimulant is not quite a fertilizer, so you can use kelp and seaweeds. They all have these great properties, phytohormones, that actually advance and help plants, so crops that you're growing, vegetables, to grow better, and getting the plants to grow strong and big without a lot of water and a lot of nutrients. We can store different types of seaweeds and kelps in a biobank, and we can use them for things like reforestation, like future genetic preservation. We could use it as a method of having seed, we call kelp seed, what we make out on the farm, on demand. We can potentially control any time that we want to put seed out, which is huge for the industry.
Something that I'm really proud of completing throughout my civil engineering technology diploma was the capstone project that my team and I finished at the very end of our diploma. It was called Pedestrians First, and it was a transportation infrastructure project where we focused on improving accessibility and safety for pedestrians on Camosun College's interurban campus. Right after I finished my diploma in the end of April, I started at the City of Langford, and I was working in their engineering and public works department. And I worked as an engineering co-op student. We mostly worked on asset management. So what that entailed was we were out in the field collecting data about the various assets. So at Langford Lake, we would go out in a rowboat and we would take out an oxygen sensor. And what we were doing is reading the oxygen levels in the water every week. Currently at the City of Victoria, I am in the transportation department, and my main tasks are to just help develop and implement and maintain ongoing projects and infrastructure in the city. And so I have the opportunity to go out on site visits, to develop sign plans for areas that may need updated or changed signage. And I am also currently helping roll out a pilot project in James Bay for a wayfinding bicycle route. This January, I am going to be coming back to Camosun to do their Bridge to UVic Advanced Diploma program. My overall general goal is to graduate with my Bachelor's of Applied Science in Civil Engineering, and I do think I would eventually like to become a professional engineer. And I am also interested in exploring both stormwater and environmental engineering. That is something that I hope I get the opportunity to explore and try in my next few co-op terms that I have.
I'm a professional geoscientist registered in BC, and engineers in geoscientists BC, and practicing my earth science profession and also environmental professional disciplines day to day. As soon as I look at this rock and I think about the geological settings, how this rock formed in here, from the structural geological point of view. For example, is there any structure, is there any faults, and is there any interesting outcrops? And so we go from there. Behind the geoscientist, there is a many different branches, for example, geology and geophysicist and geochemist and metallurgist and groundwater scientist. And so basically we use like earth scientists to study the earth through the different scientific methods. So my background, specialties was geophysicist, which means we use more likely mathematical and also physical methods, using that methods and study the earth. So my specialties more likely subsurface study, subsurface research, for example, very particularly for the mineral deposit research. I collaborate with lots of mining companies regarding project evolution. Not pure science, but lots of other aspects in addition to science and technology. I was a business advisor, an external advisor for the Solid Carbon Project for Ocean Networks Initiative. So the project is mainly absorb atmospheric carbon dioxide and injecting into ocean basalt. So we have in Cascadia Basin, we have lots of ocean basalt, so that was mainly about the project. So there is lots of scientific and also environmental and social issues related with that project, so it was really amazing.
I was actually in the Canadian Armed Forces in the Army for 21 and a half years. And during that time, I was what they considered to be a professional land communications information systems technician. And I basically did all kinds of IMIT cybersecurity for national defense, and I worked in various places around the world, as well as in Canada. And I say noteworthy was I spent 7.5 months in Egypt in the middle of the Sinai as a data center specialist. Also in national defense, I worked in cybersecurity primarily from 2004 until I retired in 2011. I was actually into computer forensics, so I led a advanced analytics team within the Department of National Defense. We would be taking forensic copies of different types of evidence and material and ensuring that the bad guys, if they did get in, that they would not again. Not that they did in my tenure, but really be coming at us with denial of service attacks every single day, like millions and millions of them. And protecting national defense and Canadian citizens was something that I'm pretty proud of. And getting an opportunity to work with the RCMP, the OPP, and all of the different other police forces within national defense as well, to ensure that anything that we're finding that's of criminal nature is reported, and then we would aid them. I'm right now with Procurement Canada, in which I'm assisting with a project as the lead security architect for the HR and pay transformation, which is transforming all of the pay and HR systems and integrating them into one system for the Government of Canada. And there's 52 different types of professions within cybersecurity. So you could be doing anything from like database management, security education training and awareness, which is more of a softer side of security. You could be a penetration tester and a vulnerability tester to look at vulnerabilities within the network. You could be doing coding, secure application transformation. There's so many different areas of cybersecurity that you can actually get involved in.